question I think a lot of people have is that constant struggle between pursuing, like the human wants to go out and compete or be successful. And then you're battling with, okay, should I just, turn into a Buddhist and just meditate 24 hours a day? Is that bad that I want to be successful? I think that's where some people, as they start to kind of open up to this world and start to wake up to some of this stuff, it's like, oh, now they feel guilty for wanting to be successful. Talk about that a little bit. Okay. Hello and welcome to today's interview. I've got an amazing guest that I've been super excited to have on for a while. And I've had some amazing personal experiences with Eric Thornton. He's also the author of the book, Educating the Soul, Spiritual Healing, and Our Eternal Psychology. So to introduce you, Eric, I've got to go back to where it first started. Eric is what we call somebody who is, they say was born with the gifts on.
Right.
I'll let you explain that. But Eric is one of the very unique, highly gifted individuals. There very rare number of people like Eric on the entire planet, especially the Western Hemisphere. And I feel really very fortunate to be able to experience it firsthand. And how it all started was when I was down in LA at an event, digital marketing event. I met Chris Stoikos, and we connected just instantly. And Chris Stoikos is the founder of Beard Club, formerly known as Dollar Beard Club. And he had a couple of videos just go viral, and they went from nobody to doing $1 million a month overnight. And we connected on a lot of this stuff that we're going to talk about today instantly. And then he goes, hey, I started talking about a book. It's one of my favorite books. It's called Journey of Souls. Highly recommend reading that book. If you're open-minded and talking about the process of what happens after you die and stuff like that. And we were just talking about that. And then he goes, you need to see my guy, Eric. He's actually out in Seattle, in Woodinville. And I'm like, well, I'm from Seattle. So, and Eric he doesn't take you and put you under a hypnosis. He can actually communicate directly with your guides or your angels. Some people might say communicating directly with God, right? But he has just a ton of amazing abilities. And so me being a seeker, of course, went out and connected with Eric. And my first session, I think we were including our talking session plus the actual session itself. I was there for like 5-6 hours, I think 7 hours, maybe the first time. So I've had, I think 4 or 5 sessions with Eric over the last few years, and just profound stuff that we'll get into today. But what I recommend, if you're somebody that, I grew up in a very strong Christian conservative background my whole life. And so over the last few years, sometimes we get attached to a certain identity. And over the last few years, I've been fortunate enough to go and travel all over the world and meet all kinds of amazing people and start to just read and research and use my own personal experiences to decide, what may or may not happen after we die. So today we're going to be talking a little about what happens after you die. Can you really connect with people that are on the other side? Do we live multiple lives or do we not? How do we become more intuitive? And as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, I am always looking, I struggle with a lot of issues where I'm indecisive. And it's like, how can we trust our intuition in our gut? And that's what Eric helps people. That's what he's helping me with. And so we have so many gifts that I think we're only tapping into like 5% of our actual intelligence. And Eric helps people tap into that inner intelligence in amazing ways. And so Eric, I remember Chris told me, he goes, Dollar Beard Club wouldn't be here. Like if I wouldn't have had a session with Eric, that was his transformational experience. And fast forward a few months, Dollar Beard Club comes up and everything blows up. And so we're talking about some pretty unique stuff here. And so Eric, first of all, thanks for coming on. Appreciate doing the interview.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. So if you're if you're a business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're open-minded, one book I recommend reading is called The Physics of God. If you're somebody that's, say you're an atheist and you're hardcore scientific method and these types of things, or you're on the other side and you're, I've been a Catholic my whole entire life. I like this book because it looks at both perspectives and it's pretty interesting. And it shows that there's, it just opens up your mind in a lot of different ways. But I mean, even you mentioned that one of your best friends is a Catholic priest.
Right. Father Armando. So
Yeah. And we're not talking religious. We're not talking about belief systems or anything here. We're just talking about what's real and what's not, like experiences. Right.
right,
And so,
right.
but yeah. So Eric, you tell me, like, in a nutshell, what do you do? I mean, you are a healer, a psychic medium.
Right.
You have helped people all over the world. I think you can do a better job of explaining exactly what you do. We're going to talk about the meaning of life. Are we here to live lessons? What is the purpose of life? Some of those types of things. What's the purpose of suffering?
Right.
But what do you do in general, and how do you help people?
Well, I'm like you said, was born with these gifts on from birth. I really don't know how other people uh, make it through life without this other input. I am a psychic, obviously, a medium. I am an exorcist. I am an educated counselor. Um, I guess I would be called a medical medium. I get to look at people. Most people, when they give therapy, they look at people through that person's eyes, and what they give off from their body. So if you're gifted, a person's giving off fear, the person may say, okay, you're in fear. And the person the client would go, yeah, okay, I'm in fear. But okay, let's get rid of the fear. So then the healer will drain the fear out of the energy system. Well, that's fine. That's a temporary fix. It works. But where we go, I get to go to the guides and their angels to find out why they have the fear, where that fear is coming from. If it's coming from from their brain type, if it's coming from the neural pathways that were laid down when they were a child, if it's coming from past life, if it's coming from their perspectives, their main perspectives, their archetypes, if you will. Other people have used that word. If it's coming from their soul origin, which is something that's unique to the work we do here, we look at people and we go, okay, you haven't been able to solve the problem. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here today. So let's go. We require that you allow for the possibility that something else can help. So the guides I get the privilege of communicating with them, much like I'm sitting here, like someone standing in front of me. It's kind of like if you've ever been to Disneyland and seen those real thick holograms. That's how I see the guides and angels. And it's a gift, it's an honor, and I know that.
Well,
And
to interrupt you for a second, hold that thought, because one of my sessions, I actually asked, I had an aunt pass away. It was killed in a car accident about 16, 17, 18 years ago. And really, my mom and her pretty much shared a bed all through growing up. They had 8 kids, Catholic family. And they were together 360 out of 365 days of the year. So they were like she had 4 daughters. They're all like my sisters. And life has taken all these turns since then. And so I asked, I said, hey, do you think Kathy would come through?
right.
And she comes through. I record the entire session, an hour and 7 minutes. And it was like right off the bat, she's proving that it's her, like talking about a lot of the things that we did when we were young. I'd never talked to Eric about her. It wasn't like, it's not why I went to Eric, it was just a thing that I was curious about. Next thing you know, she's bringing up specific, like shooting, in the barn that they had the basketball hoop and granny shots and all these things and the cars
Right.
they drove. And so it's like, okay. So we know it's real. We know like and then like we go through that and just, there's subtle little messages to each person, to each sister. And I pass that on. A couple of them who are more receptive, the older ones just have had profound experiences. And on another one, I'll go through some of it, but like I feel a miracle as came out of just the message she sent, and to be able to do that. And that's just one of your small minor gifts.
Right.
It's real.
It's for healing. People want to come forward from the other side and talk all the time, but we do it for the purpose of healing only.
Okay.
And I actually get to see them. I can describe them to you often. It's their etheric reflection. So it's not a perfect image of how they looked in the immediate past life, but it's really close. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they'll appear younger to me. But what they do is, because I'm able to see and hear them, I'm able to give a great bit of detail. And if a person comes forward for healing, they're in a good space, you might say, heaven, so to speak. And they're not here to offer, to tell you where the well is, to tell you where the money's stashed. They're here to say, hey, we're alive, we love you. This is a message that's saying, hey, keep going. They're here to encourage us in this process because it's a good process. Mm-hmm. And where a lot of people who do this, they're tapping into something that's trying to tell them how to run their life. And when we've moved on into the afterlife, and we're in a fine spot, ancestral spot, we call it, then they're here to do like they did for you. I know I've got hundreds of stories about things like that. It's amazing. And they, it's like, do you mind if I tell a story?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
So I have one of my assistants, Julie, she allows me to talk about her mother that had died 10 years before I even knew Julie. And her mother was in life profoundly deaf. So in between lives, she is always rocking it. She is always loving the sounds, the music, the whole thing. And mm-hmm. She's having a great time because in life, she had a very restricted life.
That's what this book's all about. It's the journey, the case studies of life between lives. It's what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah. And it's like,
keep going.
So she told me to, like with you, she told me she liked to give little Christmas presents. She didn't have any money. So she goes, I want you to buy each of the kids, because they had like 7 kids, each of them Christmas cards and sign it from me. And of course, some of them just thought it was horrible, and others thought it was a fantastic and a wonderful gift. And she told me about herself. She told me about, all kinds of things, individual things that happened and everything else. But over the months and many times that we talked with her, her father never came forward. And this was the interesting thing for me, is one day her dad came forward, and he was straightforward. He didn't mince many words, but he wanted people to understand him a little. He said in life, he was aloof. He didn't connect with his children. He didn't connect with anybody. He had a few misguided things happen in his life, but overall a good guy. Didn't earn a lot, but provided. And they never really understood him, or why he was that way. Well, he explained to me, he goes, I was in World War II. I think I was telling you about this the other day. And and he worked on bombers in the airplanes that dropped bombs. Well, he was actually the one who opened the door to drop the bombs. Over 300 series flights over Italy, killing women and children.
Unbelievable.
And he knew it every day. Every time he had to open that door, there was all these innocent people that were going to die. And it gave him such bad PTSD that he couldn't connect with his children. He couldn't connect with the world. And, back then they just told people to go home, forget about the war, just go about life, make babies. And and he had this deep wound that kept him from connecting. And the family knew he was in the Air Force. They knew he was in the planes that dropped bombs, but they didn't know that he was the one who opened the bay doors. And so it offered this huge healing for the whole family, to understanding this distance that they had from their dad that just couldn't be explained. And it just, it just melted their hearts. And they forgave him, and it allowed them to feel safe inside themselves. And so he wasn't making excuses. He was saying, this is what I didn't share. This is what I needed to share. And this will be healing. So that's why I do this, talking with people for healing purposes only, for people that have passed. Because it's absolutely profound what these people tell me. And they always know what to say, because they are also being guided when they're in this position by my guides and their guides for healing the person that we're working with. And so we get lots of profound healings from people that have come forward during sessions. So
Wow.
and I call it an honor and a privilege when that type of a thing happens. To me, I don't look at this as miracles. I look at this as everyday life.
Right.
And
right.
And it's just an honor and a privilege to help people.
Okay. Okay. So what, we're going through this life, and and my guess is you get a variety of people, right? You get people that are seekers looking for what's on the other side. And then people that are having some really big struggles, maybe across the board. I think what initially I started learning about, what really happens when you die, and then all these experiences, like there's all these cases, there's just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cases that are online. You can find them, of people having near-death experiences, going through a 45-minute coma. Anita Morjani has a great book called Dying to Be Me, where, people they're talking in the other room, and doctors are yes, like she repeated everything we said while she was in a coma, and we were like down the hall. It's like proof, blah, 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 blah. And so every single time experience, it's this very blissful, like, feeling that you go, and there's people, they can't really describe it, whether it's somebody having a memory, being under a hypnotic state, like with a therapist like Michael Newton in Journey of Souls, or somebody having a near-death experience, or you connecting with somebody that's coming forward. It's always like this heavenly state, like they describe in the Bible and other texts, and where it's just this pure love and bliss, and there's no guilt. There's no guilt at all, but at the same time, you also, in a lot of cases, they talk about a life review, and you have this instant, like, memory of every experience you've ever had in your life, every person you've ever met, and every repercussion of what you said, and then how that impacted that person, and how it impacted the next person. And you have this, like, quantum experience of these memories of, because you're actually, you get to review and see, how did I do? How did I, like, impact people? How did I handle the lessons that came my way, the struggles? Did I push through, and did I grow as a soul? Or did I, succumb to the societal norms, or drugs and alcohol, or whatever it is? And so you can talk about karma and those types of things, but tell me about, like,
well, you're mentioning a whole lot of things there. This is what I'm shown. I'm always coming from, what I'm shown by the guides and angels. So there is a lot of, shall we say, hearsay out there. There's a lot of projection. There's a lot of things that have become tradition. And our current culture's view on past life is one that was commanded in 1491. And I'm going to give a little background here with that story. I was raised Catholic as well. So, or I was, as well as many people. And, Catholics believe in saints, and they believe in intercession from certain beings. They're called saints, or people like Mary or Jesus or something like that. And but they don't talk about reincarnation. And yet, to be a Christian, you have to believe in reincarnation, because it was the proof that Jesus was a Messiah, which is a messenger, is that Ezekiel from the Old Testament shall rise again and proclaim the way of the Messiah. Well, Jesus told John the Baptist no less than 10 times that he was in fact Ezekiel. and and he denied it. And Jesus said, yes, that's basically that's because you're in a different body. Well, I recognize that as a kid, because I've read through the Bible many times, and yet it didn't make any sense, because it wasn't talking about that. So, and yet I'm working on clients, and I'm seeing past life and how it affects them. And it mostly affects us wonderfully. That's another huge misnomer, is most of our personalities come from past life, most of our great attributes. And this comes from practice, right?
Yeah, I've talked to my son Kyler. I go, so a lot of times you'll see somebody that's 5 years old and they're like this musical phenom.
Right.
And I go, I can guarantee you they were a musician in the past life. So that's why they have these
Exactly.
memories are coming back.
Right. And they just pick up an instrument and it just starts coming back to them.
Justin Bieber, where does a great documentary about Justin Bieber. And he's 5 years old and the kid is playing drums like you've never seen. There's no possible way. I go, dude, he was playing drums. He was a musician in past lives. That's why he walked right into it.
Right. Exactly. So I'm sitting here with this controversy in my head. And I think I've probably told the story to you, but I was lying there in bed sleeping one night and the guys go, get up, go downstairs and turn on the TV. And I go, no, really, I'm sleeping. And they said, go downstairs and turn on the TV. I said, no, I'm sleeping. They said, go downstairs and turn on the TV because they're quite literal. And I go, really? Are you not going to leave me alone? And they go, nope. And I go, okay. So I got up and I went downstairs and then turned on the TV. And it was on a TV channel that was never on that TV. And it was on the Discovery Channel. And that was usually on with the kids' TV, right? And and here's Leonard Nimoy doing a complete documentary on reincarnation in the Judeo-Christian tradition. And to keep this short, basically he said, it was commonplace. Reincarnation has nothing to do with Christianity. And in fact, it enhances Christianity, saying that God is kind and loving.
Right.
And there's no hell.
Where in the scripture? Keep going. Sorry.
Right. And and Jesus does tell us that God's loving, kind, Father, Yahweh, etc. And and of course, it's not held that way, but in 1490 or so, there's this man called Dante. He wrote a poem called Dante's Inferno. And I don't know if you've studied it, but it has...
I haven't, but it turned into a movie, I think, right?
Yeah, and it talks about the 7 stages of his imagination, of 7 stages of this place he calls hell. And the word hell, he explains, came from the Roman judicial system. A punishment for doing certain things was you had to burn garbage, and the garbage dump was called hell.
You had to stand, so you're burning up.
Hell. Right.
Yeah.
And that's where the concept came from. So Dante wrote this poem out of hearsay in the 1400s about hell, just hearsay going around. Well, Queen Isabella loved it. She saw the idea of power, and she was married to Ferdinand of France, and they were the reigning superpower. So it's called the Meeting at the Palace of Garcia. And I actually looked this up online, and there is a building, and it is now a museum, and it is like a large row house. And this meeting was calling all the leaders of all the churches at the time in 1491 together to get rid of the discussion of past life in the Bible rewrites that were going on throughout the 1400s and early 1500s. And she commanded all the churches, Luther was around, Calvin was around, the Pope was there, all the Jewish leaders, all the Gnostic leaders were at this meeting. And she commanded on threat of death that they stop referring to reincarnation. And then they brought up the idea of hell. And they added that to the stories and place of punishment if you don't act correctly. So they could control the masses that were uneducated. And the Pope...
A fear of going to hell and burning.
Right. If you don't act good, if you're out raising hell, burning down houses, blah, 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 you're going to go to hell. If you don't follow the laws, you're going to go to hell. So it's not just going to jail. You're going to hell for all eternity. So that's a bit more incentive for an uneducated individual.
Yeah.
So the Pope went away with a thing called purgatory. We're all taught when we were growing up, you're born, you follow our rules exactly, and you make it all the way to heaven. And you don't stop in the middle. That's purgatory. You don't want to stop there. And it's like, I remember in third grade, I was asking everybody what purgatory meant, and they all gave me some screwy answer, and I could see it was just made up. It wasn't the truth. So I find out from Leonard Nimoy that this is, in fact, the word the Pope came up with to appease the Queen. The Gnostics, the Calvinists, they went, yes, we got power. The Jews went, screw you. And that was the cause of the Spanish Inquisition. Literally. That was the reason the Jews were forced out of all Spanish and French territories, which was Europe at the time, was because they told the Queen, screw you. You're only going to live for another 50 years. This is an entire human race we're dealing with here. And the Jews, wow. Orthodox Jews, of course, study past life. The secular ones sort of believe it, but the Orthodox study it all the time. They know they're reincarnated. They talk to people about their past lives, and they document it. And they, but that was, I had a rabbi argue with me about that because he didn't even know. And 6 months later, wow. He called me back and apologized because that was the cause of the Spanish Inquisition. And they, all over the idea of making God a fearful God, making spirituality distant, and you follow our rules.
Yep.
And it has nothing to do with Christianity. It has nothing to do with faith. It actually makes it into a kind thing. The Christians liked it, because even the Pope did, because of the control that they could have over the population. So the fact is, I don't care whether the person believes in past lives or not, they have them. Right. And they have to, if they want to come in, they got to allow for the possibility. And the, and it's because it's amazing the wonderful things we have to discover our soul's personality in order to be successful and happy in this life. Okay. If we are hooked to our conscious personality, we have the 1- and 2-dimensional fear thinking. The imagination goes away. We can't use our God-given abilities because we're too much in fear for prosperity, for seeing opportunities, for being able to know, oh, that is an opportunity I need to take, and this one's not. And for turning opportunities that seem sour into something that is actually very beneficial. And the so our goal in all the work we do is called enlightenment, and then consciousness.
Okay. What's
enlightenment, how I explain it, is when a person can do this. In the English language alone, there's 10,000 words and phrases describing emotions. 3,000 of them are what we would call positive, 7,000 are what we would call negative. When we can look at those negative ones and turn them into positive ones, that's enlightenment. If you're staying in the negative thought process, you're in fight or flight, and you've limited it to 5% of your brain's power. When you can look at anything that happens has opportunity. So let's say you lose a business. Well, if you look at it as victim, you're not going to be able to look at it and see what you did wrong and then learn and then go to someone like you, Keith, and get advice on how to turn things around and make $1 million. With the other business, it went flop and you might have struggled with it for another 20 years and been poor because you were stuck in survival. Where if you look at that as, well, okay, that failed. Where's the next thing coming from? What am I learning? What can I do with this? Was I with the wrong people that just we didn't click? Was I with the right people, but weren't on the same page? Was I whatever it was? Because if you look at it positively, all of a sudden your imagination is there. And you can grow and learn and be a seeker and make the next opportunity work for you. So we look at, that's enlightenment. When you can look at everything positive. or eventually turn it to something positive. Yes, we have our emotions. Yes, we got to honor our emotions, but how long do we got to hang on to them? How long do we have to be, how long is it till we become a victim to our own thought process and keeping us stuck and held down in everything we do? And we take a look at that. We're able to look at, see what it is keeping the person in that negative perspective, so that they can then turn around, walk away from here and just go, oh my God, I feel amazing. And they start trusting their intuition, and we coach them and things like that. So once that's done, you're not wrapping your head around all these negative thoughts all the time. So all of a sudden you have time to what? Hear your guides, because you're not always thinking, okay, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to keep this person happy, I got to do that, I should have said this, I might have done that, I could have done this, maybe should, all this stuff going on a beautiful sunny day when you should be noticing the tree branches and the birds singing. And you should be able to have joy bubble up from inside of you. And when that happens, that's when consciousness takes place. Consciousness is the ability to know your soul's personality. All of your past lives, it all comes together in each life. And you have opportunity to tap into everything you've ever done, what we would call negative or positive. And if we're in the positive, we're going to tap into the positive from our past lives. If we're in the negative, we're going to tap into the negative. Like energy comes together. So consciousness is the ability to know whether it's your own human fear and anxiety driving you, or whether you need to sit back and find this altruistic place, because of our culture it would be altruistic, place of peace. Because the soul doesn't care whether you are a victim or a success. The soul just wants you learning and growing, right, and experiencing. So when we do this, we live a really great life. And then when we die, we move into this place very easily. Like you said, it's a place where perfect communication, a place, there's no words, it's all psychic. It's a place of no ego. The ego has the body. The ego has the astro body. The soul has the etheric and the soul's energy. And the etheric and the soul's energy, they know the human experience is a blip in time.
Right.
So it doesn't matter. And so when you've tapped into that energy, and this failure doesn't matter, or this big, huge success doesn't matter, you don't go into narcissism. Mm-hmm. You don't go into fear. You don't go into the constant beating yourself up for years and years and years at a time, taking your time away from this life.
So how do you balance? I think a lot of people wonder, like what you're saying right now is very similar message to any ancient like yogi or Eastern guru or
right.
Or a monk or something like that. Very similar. Somebody that I follow is Sadhguru. I love his stuff, and very, very similar. And by the way, it's if you read the red text in the Bible, everything that Jesus said. Is everything that you're talking about right now basically is your answers are within.
Right.
And it's like, and so, but with that, my question I think a lot of people have is that constant struggle between pursuing, like the human wants to go out and compete or be successful. And then you're battling with, okay, should I just, turn into a Buddhist and just meditate 24 hours a day? Is that bad that I want to be successful? I think that's where some people, as they start to kind of open up to this world and start to wake up to some of this stuff, it's like, oh, now they feel guilty for wanting to be successful. Talk about that a little bit.
Okay. So what you're asking is a whole bunch of things.
Okay. Of course.
So I'm going to go back a long way. Okay. we were taught, our cultures are taught, teach us that we're flawed. That
Schools.
there's,
Yeah.
if we aren't perfect, we're flawed. So it's like some people say, if you have Jesus in your life and you're a woman, you'll never have morning sickness because Jesus is in your life. And then the women that have Jesus in their life throw up because they have morning sickness and go, really? I must be a bad person because someone told me I wouldn't be sick if Jesus was really in my life. So I'm sick, so it must not be there. So I'm deficient. Well, that whole process was stirring after Jesus died, soon after he died. The Catholic Church was formed. That was the first Christian church that was formed. And and that's what Catholic means. It just means universal Christian. And they had about 450 AD, the Pagliasian trials. Paglias, and I may be pronouncing it slightly wrong, but you can look it up. Paglias was a cardinal that argued that human beings are perfect. This is a perfect planet. It is set up perfect for the growth and education of the soul. Ergo, the name of my book. And if the human soul, think about this for a moment. If we have everything perfect, we want to sit around and eat bonbons and be fed calories because every calorie we put out, we have to replace. That's an animal thing. So, and we're going to die. So we automatically have safety issues. So with that comes a lot of thought. How do I be safe? What makes me the safest? Groups, money, power, those things make you safe, theoretically. They don't, you understand that, but it helps. Right. So there was an argument ensuing. So the Catholic Church called this trial together. It was the Paglasians versus the Alexandrians. This is all history. You can look it all up. There was about, I think it was around 15 years this trial took place. The Paglasians' main argument, and all the millions underneath it, was that that humanity is perfect. The Alexandrians was humanity is flawed. We have original sin. The Paglasians said, no, if you make that doctrine, then you officially will stop spiritual growth from happening on the planet until that doctrine is changed. Well, the first pope, and I don't remember the names, again, this is history, you can look it up, he decided he liked the Paglasians. He believed that. The pope that he died, the next pope that came in liked the Alexandrians and the power that the idea of original sin gave the church. Again, if you can control what is right and wrong, you can control an uneducated population. So, of course, the Alexandrians won. The Paglias was kicked out of the church. And it's ensued ever since, the build in our cultures of that we're flawed, that everything that goes wrong is flawed. There's a flaw. We're victim. We become, we self-punish. We've been taught to self-punish by the cultures. We've been taught to self-punish by the 1% of the population that has all the money. We've been taught this works really well for the people in power. You're not good enough, so therefore you suffer. And it's permeated every aspect of our personalities and lives. And my work shows the exact opposite. It shows what the Paglasians were arguing, that we are perfect. The planet is perfect. We are here to have struggle. Look at the human body. We have hormones that change in a 17th of a second. We were made that way. Those hormone change, we struggle instantly. And that's not a flaw. We were made to have this very switching perspectives, to adapt, to grow, to move, to enjoy God's creation. and to talk with each other and talk these things through so that we can come up with larger and larger and larger ideas. And this isn't a flaw. This is not sin. It's knowledge. So the story of Adam and Eve was made up at that time, and they called it knowledge. We got knowledge, and poor Eve, she got blamed for that apple of knowledge. I guess that was a big, huge genetic pod that she threw at the human being, and it gave us a bigger brain, which made us acknowledge the hormones and the ability to think and grow and talk. Homo erectus and Neanderthal didn't have that ability, so they were innocent, like a dog. A dog can get mad, but they don't do it for malice. They just get mad because of the moment. Well, that's the way Neanderthal, Homo erectus were until this change took place, and that's a long story too. And then we got this higher brain. We got the hippocampus, we got the hypothalamus, we got the corpus callosum, which give us this left-right brain crossover that gets us to think.
And be conscious.
Be conscious, right. And when you're consciously aware of things around you, you now have the ability to process them, to work with them, to grow with them. If you look at everything as opportunity, like you take a kid who's using a knife for the first time and you try to protect them from cutting themselves, they're never going to learn. And then one day they're going to be working so hard at it that they cut their whole finger off. Where if they would have just learned by cutting themselves a little bit, they would have learned and grown and become a great master carver.
Right.
So our cultures take this notion that we're flawed and control the masses with it.
And try to fix everybody with rules. And
people like you, from what I understand, are going, hey, dudes, there's all this opportunity here. Just don't put yourself down before you've even started.
Yeah.
I know that's some of your premise. And and if you've failed, let's learn from it. Let's grow. That's what human existence is. And that's a wonderful, amazing gift, to be able to turn all this into positive growth. So with this came a whole lot of input into our brains. And, if you're telling a child you're flawed, from the word go, they're literally going to think everything about them is flawed. It's built into their whole psychic, and they become these adults that are afraid of stepping out because someone might see their flaws. They're afraid of being their authentic self, putting out their authentic gift, because they feel flawed inside, because it's been pushed in every culture that we are in, our religions, our civic cultures, our neighborhood cultures. The one who can't play hockey the best is flawed.
Yep.
The one who can't be the most feminine in a woman is flawed. And it's not that way at all.
Organized and clean in your family.
Right.
Get the best grades, get the best. It's so unbelievable. And it's like,
right. But when we're flawed, we can create groups and say, you're flawed. Whole groups are flawed. And the group that's accusing them feels powerful because they can get, righteous about it, because they have a big group. And they say this another group is flawed. And God made us all equal. Every single human being. We are all equal. You've heard it 1,000 times. We're all equally different. Every human being, not races, but every human being is different, equally different. And I see that every day. And I get this privilege of seeing, we have so many sicknesses that we can have, but in about 280 symptoms, but how we get them is so unique and so amazing to uncover a person's riddles and be shown them by their guides so they can go, oh, should have had a V8. And they can it just opens their door up. And the excitement is amazing that comes from it.
So let's talk about that, like the medical intuitive stuff, like, because you've done this a few times with me. You'll just be like, hey, you just a few different random things that you've mentioned, very specific.
Right. Well, I had a female yesterday, and she was having, I can't mention words, things like that, and I have to change the story a bit here. So, yeah. But she was having these muscular problems and back problems, and she had been trying to find answers for 10 years, and it was just getting worse. And I get into her energy field. I see some stuff from past life that's bothering her. Then we look in her brain, and I see that she has what I call myoclonic seizures all night long. And it causes her muscles to tighten up and cause all these muscle spasms throughout her whole spine. And and no one's even thought of looking there. And I said, okay, so I asked her a series of questions that she answered. I asked her the questions without leading her, and she answered the questions perfectly. And when she sleeps, she gets these large jerks. She rolls all over the place. She wakes up all the time. She has jerks when she's awake. And that's what myoclonic seizures are. And they can ruin your sleep and destroy your back and all the muscles. So we were able to show her that, and we were able to show her how they were agitated in her, able to show her, give advice for her boyfriend, and send her to get an EEG done so she can get some help and prove what we've done for her. And then we have a level to work with and see if we can improve her life, whether the medicine's working or whether alternative medicines are working, and see if we can mitigate the myoclonic seizures. And she was just in tears because no one has ever even been able to go there with her. Not one doctor she'd seen for 10 years. And it ruined her life. So to have that privilege was amazing.
Yeah, it's the problem, the society that we're in right now. It's like the biggest industries, and especially Western culture, right?
Right.
Where we're at here in America and stuff is like pharmaceutical industry, alcohol and drugs,
right,
and guns are like the
right.
top 4 industries besides tech. And it's like, are you kidding me? And all these people, all this stuff is happening right now with the virus going around, and I haven't gotten sick in 4 years, not one
right.
time. I used to get the flu. I used to get a cold every single year. And I haven't gotten sick once in 4 years. And I've been doing things like cold water immersion and meditating and unique yogic meditation where I'm helping align my chakras and stuff like that. And
right.
eating the food, like is like eating actual food that doesn't take 4 days to digest and doesn't, develop.
It does help.
Yeah. Like and then you have, oh my goodness. And it's like this medicine, this world of people realize that the human body was actually meant to heal.
Right.
If you put the right things in it, instead of going and trying to medicate it and band-aid it with all these drugs that actually might feel like it's solving the short-term problem, but it's making something else worse and
right.
causing all these autoimmune diseases.
Well, it's ever since the 60s, we have had this onslaught of what we call the standard American diet now. And that has just made us sicker and fatter and taken us away even more, because if we're sick, we're no longer spiritual. We are no longer thinking deeply. And so if you want a controllable population, you make them sick with the food they eat. And there's been several acts enforced by our government that has ensured that these things happen. And and like your friend Chris and myself, we eat what God gave us, and to eat naturally. We eat plants and grains and things like that. And it's amazing what happens when you don't put things in your body that stay in there for up to 2 weeks and rot. And it's amazing how much better your immune system works, and how much better your collagen system works, and your blood system, and etc. when you eat the things that God gave us to eat. And people will argue that point all day long, and that's a whole segment in itself. Yeah. But when I discover issues in people, I'm battling those cultures. So like the lady yesterday, we discovered the epilepsy. Her question to me this morning was, first she observed, "Oh my God, I feel free for the first time. I can think about anything. I feel amazing." And her question to me, she said, "Thank you." And she, quite a long email. And then she goes, "If I go to the doctor with my myoclonic, will I be able to drive?" And I'm going, okay, so you're having seizures that can increase with age and kill you, but you're asking me whether you can drive or not. And I'm going, I told her, well, yeah, you can drive. Myoclonic doesn't prevent you from driving. But we're caught in these cultures. So like I see someone that's dying of heart disease, literally dying of heart disease on my table. And I go, dude, you need to change your diet. No, I can't do that. I go, well, okay, how are you at dying? We're rather blunt. And I had this one guy, he would not change anything. And his wife had appointments, and she was a lovely lady. And during the wife's appointment, her husband's guide came forward and said, "You need to do this change for your husband," which was going to whole food plant-based. And I had talked to the husband, but I hadn't had a full session with him. So I didn't know anything that was wrong with the guy. And I go, okay, so I told her this, which was very unusual for a husband's guide to come forward. And so she just changed everything. Just changed everything they ate.
Didn't give him the choice. Just
no choice at all. The guy had had gout for 30 years. It went away in 3 days. He had, I believe it was 4 stents and 2 open heart surgeries. In 3 months, he was off of all medications. Blood pressure was normal. Blood sugar was normal. He was walking again. He was exercising again. And for 2 years, he gave me emails that said, "Thank you." And I said, "I want you to take one arm and put it on your wife's back, and then take the other arm and put it on your wife's back. And I want you to squeeze and tell her, thank you." So we like to make good excuses for very bad behaviors. And that's in all of our life. It's not just the food. We get stuck in habits. And this gives healers who don't have the psychological background have a very hard time, because they will sit here. It's like I worked with this lady, healer, Laura Smith, and she's a healer, so she appreciates me talking about her. And but she was a nurse, emergency room nurse, so she didn't have the psychological history. So a healing would take place, and then 3 or 4 months later, but the problem would be back again. And I'm going, well, if you don't change what caused the problem, how do you expect it to stay away? Because the same circumstances are there, so it will redevelop. And she got that. She started getting that when we were working. We worked together on clients for about 2 years. And if you don't get the answer to a person's victim, their riddle to solve their problem, they will continue in the habit, and they won't change the neural pathways in their brain, because this controls everything. The brain controls absolutely everything. And you know, if a demon or something wants to lift your arm, it doesn't lift your arm, it stimulates your brain to lift the arm. If it wants to control you, so it's all done through your brain. And and if you don't change the brain, you're going to be in the same habit. That's why we give homework. That's why we give psychological practices to get the brain to actually lay down new neural pathways and give the person new options. So example of that would be someone who we've liberated from a real negative energy that made them feel victim all the time. So they still think they're victim in a situation, but then we go, okay, so that, yes, that neural pathway's there. It's been there for 30 years, but we got a new neural pathway now that says, oh, that's then. This is now. What's the construct today? And then that new neural pathway starts getting reaffirmed, and new neural pathways form, and pretty soon the old neural pathways literally weaken and they go away. The process
you gotta practice it. You've got to actually put in the work.
Exactly. You have to do the work to change the habit. That's what it is. It's a habit. It's the neural pathways in the corpus callosum. And so if you just remove energy and say, don't do that anymore, you're nowhere. You're not able to change a habit because you're in the default setting, we call it. The default is what we always go back to. And if you don't change that, or give it a new route, you're going to stay on that old set of train tracks. So when we work with people and we discover their victim from past life, from this life, from circumstances, we present everything in a neutral way because it is neutral. It's not right or wrong. If we look at parents' constructs, schoolmates' constructs, they were situations that you were born into and they weren't right or wrong. But if you understand them, then we can uncover your riddle to help you develop new neural pathways. So that's the work we do all day, every day. Things that block it are fear of, like you talked about, fear of death, fear of not doing the right thing and ending up in the right place or ending up in the wrong place. That governs. And
when you say that, you're talking about doing, like, ending up in the wrong place within this life, right? Like
within this life or within death.
Or okay, like hell or heaven type of thing.
Hell or heaven, as well as poor and broke,
exactly,
or surviving and doing decently.
Yeah.
Our definition of success is a bar that only 1% of the world could reach. And that's not true. You're successful. You know, you're not worth, I don't know this for sure, but I'm assuming you're not worth $1 trillion. Okay.
No.
And neither am I, but I am successful at my life. You're successful at your life. And and that's a gift. That's a gift of opening up, of not accepting these cultures of persecution, of feeling victim, of feeling less than, and saying, hey, we're good. We're okay. We can do this. What does it hurt to put the toe in the water? Doesn't hurt anything. Let's give it a try. And it's like, I used to be totally afraid of doing something like this. I would never in a million years talk to people on YouTube or do a public speak and the or a podcast. Now it's like, I don't care. It's, you know, I was made to feel I was inadequate. And then one day I realized that I'm not the one that was inadequate. I just have a different perspective.
Right.
And
yeah.
So then the fear of doing this went away.
It's the same thing goes in my world all the time. People think that I can't write good ads. I'm not a writer, or I can't make videos, and they don't realize how bad I was. And then I did it a couple times, and I'm like, oh, okay, I wasn't very good, but I got a little bit better.
Right. Exactly.
Right. And then next thing you know, you're comfortable with it when you get a bunch of reps under your belt.
Right. That's what we, yeah. If we get rid of the stumbling blocks, we all of a sudden can run, or at least walk.
So what's an example of somebody, let's say that what's something that somebody might be able to do? Let's say if they haven't talked to you yet, for example, and they don't get a little, cheat codes, I guess, when they talk to you, because now it's pretty unique. And we can talk about the free will and kind of how you do that, like after you have a call with somebody too. But like, let's say somebody's right now, they're sitting here and they're watching this and they're thinking that I want to be more decisive. I want to get out of my own head a little bit. What do you recommend somebody do if they haven't had a chance to have a session with you in general, if they're struggling with feeling stuck?
Okay. The first thing I recommend in this situation, and I've done this on the podcast that I've been doing with Ashley James, is I recommend a thing called the energy exchange. And the energy exchange is a practice I eventually teach everybody that comes through here. But the energy exchange is about realizing that everything is energy. And that's what we're exchanging. Money is energy, time is energy, light is energy, sound is energy. We all know this. Science has proven it. And we in our cultures have been taught that it's all reality. A paper dollar is something you can touch, but a paper dollar is just a bunch of atoms hanging together. And the idea that people can't understand that everything is a mirage is true, but most people can't understand that. But maybe they can understand this thing that science has called sound. You know, science can measure sound. They can play with it. We're both talking through microphones, putting it through. Visible, right. It's manipulable. Well, what happens when someone's talking with you? They're sending sound to you. Well, you have a choice. We're taught to listen and pull it in. Yeah, well, you listened and pulled it in. Well, now it's inside of you. And that bogs you down. And it becomes, we often confuse someone else's criticism with our own self-criticism, because we've owned what someone has told us. So let's say your boss thinks you're an idiot. And he goes, John, you're an idiot. You can't do anything right. And he's a boss that you really respect, and you take it in, and your world starts to shrink. You take it in, and all of a sudden you're thinking, I'm an idiot, because it fits all the other things that you've struggled with in your whole life. And it affirms that you're an idiot. Yep. Or you can use your third chakra, which is between your belly button and your sternum. It's called your center of power. And you can be hit with John's words of, you're an idiot. And you can go, oh, that's John's opinion. That's not mine. And it's like you point all of that voice, all of that energy to your third chakra, and you send it back to him. Like with a ball or a rainbow or stars, whatever image you want to use. But right there, what you've done is you've gone from one-dimensional thinking, boss says I'm an idiot, to two-dimensional thinking, oh my God, I've done all these things wrong. I am an idiot. To suddenly you're throwing it into your imagination. You're imagining that this thing you can't see with your eyes called sound, it's not yours. It came out of his mouth. And you're going to point it all and give it right back to him. You've just employed your artistic side of your brain. And it now is using 95% of your brain's thinking power to understand that John's the one speaking. John doesn't know your life. John has no place to say anything, and you've given it back to him. And if it comes up again in your head, instead of running it through your head, you send that ball of light back to John again. And if it comes up again, you do it again. And in other words, you accept John's thought in that he thinks you're an idiot because you did something that was maybe idiotic. But you can then separate out the personal attack from what's John really saying. John's really saying, dude, you did something wrong here. Can we teach you something new? Can you find someone to teach you? Can Sarah teach you? Can Mike teach you? Can I teach you something? Can we bring this all together to grow? So you've taken it from fight or flight to a full thought form, full brain power, and then you can learn and grow. But we don't do that. We take it in and we hold it. And then it becomes our own voice. It's not John's voice anymore. It's our own voice. And it stops us in our tracks. It makes us doubt our intuition. It makes us doubt what the guides and angels are giving us. Because we now have been told so many times that we're an idiot, we've accepted it, and we've become it. So the energy exchange is about realizing what is yours and what is theirs. And it's all governed by what we call hormones. And those hormones govern what comes out of our mouth. Now it also comes out our hands and comes out our eyes. That's called, and out of our brain. That's called light. And our brain is an electric generator. And it's not only sound that comes out of us, it's this light that is picked up by our digestive brain. We have a brain material from the tip of our tongue all the way out the back door. And that brain material, they're studying it in the United Kingdom. They can even tell your personality from it, how you've been trained.
Wow.
What you were born with from this brain material. And we pull this light in through the brain, through that brain material, and pull it in, and it gives us a gut feeling. That gut feeling is real. And it has nothing to do with our other senses. It only has to do with the sense of touch. And that sense of light has to do with sense of touch. And it pulls it in. And we have a choice whether we accept that or we do not accept it. We can give that feeling back to a person as well. That is light working. Science can measure the light from our brain, can measure it from our eyes and from our hands. And they've gotten so good at it, they can actually read our brains now if they hook us up to the EEGs. Because each word has a certain frequency, and they can record the patterns and therefore read your mind. But this comes to us all the time. So we call it stupid human tricks. So someone's in a bad mood. They're throwing all this energy at you. They may be throwing their thought forms. So they're throwing their thoughts. They may be throwing their predatory energies at you. They can be throwing their past lives at you, and a myriad of other things. And you're, again, taking it in, and it makes you go into the red light response, where you're hunched over and feeling bad about yourself, instead of the upright response. And and it compounds the cultures of being imperfect, and causes us, again, more victim. So
it just reaffirms that self-identity that you have with yourself from over the years, being told you're not right.
Right. And your brain has this safety mechanism that is called, it's it is the safety mechanism that we fill in the blanks. So there's a psychological phenomena which I can explain to you that kind of shows people how we fill in our blanks and why the energy exchange is so important. So it takes about 5 minutes to explain it. Okay.
Okay. And if you want, I grabbed it. I've got a bunch of these around too, kind of show the energy of a pendulum. It's an experiment somebody can do to see how our thoughts are similar to sound waves.
Right. Well, we can, and I can show you that as well.
Okay.
So you have, this is a typical prisoner of war story with 4 choices, 3 doors and 1 other choice. And the prisoner is going to be put to death. Okay. So he has a choice. He can be shot directly by the guard standing next to him, and he can die slowly in the sun. Okay. Or he can go through door number 1, which is ninjas. They're practicing their sword fighting, and they're just going to cut you up slowly until you die. Door number 2 is a lion that hasn't eaten in 3 months. Door number 3 is a cliff. You're going to fall off of and die slowly at the bottom. So, Keith, which would you choose?
So I think we did this one. I think I chose the first one. So I already know the answer now.
Okay.
I think you did this to me once. Yeah.
Right. So most people, even some of them they'll pick the cliff. Sometimes they pick the lion altruistically. They pick it because their body will at least go to feed the lion. Right? Well, the fact is, when you were given the choice of a lion, everybody goes, lion hasn't eaten in 3 months. He's going to be weak, but he's going to attack me. He's going to start eating me while I'm alive. But the truth is, if you weren't in 1 and 2 dimensional thinking, you would realize a lion that hasn't eaten in 3 months is dead. But your brain filled in the answer according to your fears, according to what people have convinced you through cultures, through behaviors, etc., to fill it in quickly so you can stay alive. This is an automatic thing in our brain. And we have to pull in the artistic side of the brain in order to make full decisions. If you would have drawn each of one of those out, you would have realized that lion was dead or at least too weak to eat you. And you would have picked out the lion. But the same thing happens to us all day long. Someone is telling us something, telling us we're an idiot, and we go into fight or flight. And we fill in the blanks. This is how crowds are controlled. This is how, partial information is given. The Bible is really a really good tool for this because it gives partial information that can be interpreted 10,000 or 10 million or 10 billion different ways. And you fill it in with your own brain and you think, oh, God's speaking to me. Well, really, it's your brain's reaction to the fear of death. So I have to work with all this. Then we get things that are within us. We call them, in the colloquials, the schools around, we call them demons. We call them obsessions, subjugations, inhabitants, various other forms of entities that are influencing our brain. And the way they do that is they keep us in the fear so that we struggle and struggle and struggle until we finally begin to search. Then we become searchers. And then we search and we search and we search until we find God in our own way. And that's a perfect system. Human beings, like I said, would rather sit around and eat bonbons than to lose calories. So we all have this tendency and need to rest, but we like to stay at rest. And so we try to constantly make things so that we can have ease. Like we gain money so we can have ease. Right. This is all part of the human condition. Go ahead. Sorry.
People are trying to live more comfortable, right?
Right.
All the time.
Right. And that yet we get things in our energy field that are causing us grist, causing us pain, causing us putting whispers in our ears or in our head that keep us struggling. And we've been removed by our cultures from the people that can help us through that. The authentic medicine men and women, the ones that are born, they're masters. They aren't someone that learned a technique. They are someone that is born able to have this discussion with a person's guides and angels. They're born being able to hear them, see them.
What happened? How long? Because there was, for how many thousands of years were these people, that's who people would go to for a doctor, a medicine man. And
right.
then when was the period of time when they became witches, and it became taboo, and now it's unbelievable.
Well, right. It was around the time of the Alexandrian trials, because it contradicted the church's new doctrine.
Okay.
And that's when that started. And to the point of finally they literally burned people at the stake, in Salem, England. And they did a little bit in the early United States, but mostly it was done in England. And and it wiped out these people that had the gifts, or it made them go go underground.
Yeah.
Even myself, even
a few years ago when we first met, you were worried about coming out in public and doing this kind of stuff.
I still have that concern there.
Yeah.
Because, I had to move once because people were coming to my door, laying kids down at my feet going, fix them.
Seriously?
Yeah. Wow. And that's not my department. I'm a voice between room A and room B. And and I don't have the power to heal somebody. I'm connected. I happen to be very fortunate to have these connections that can cause healing to take place. But if I put my finger on somebody to make them better, it does nothing. If I'm told where to put something and they're going to heal it, it's proven by science. And we want it proven by science. Otherwise, it hasn't healed. And but these healers, the medicine men and women, used to be a place of respect. And they were the psychologists. They were the MDs. They were the herbologists. They were the psychics. They were the futurists. They were the ones that could tell whether there was going to be enough food around or not, whether there was going to be sickness, whether there was going to be attacked, whether they were, and they'd see someone with their energy out of whack a little bit. They could see a possession in it. And they'd say, okay, I'll see you on Tuesday at 10. And it was respected. And so it didn't get a buildup in them. It got removed, and they got to learn from it right then and change the neural pathways before they got this huge buildup.
Yeah.
And the medicine women and men were respected. And so they were the ones that kept the tribes going. And those are tribes of all cultures, not, people think of tribes Native American. We were all tribes at one time. And they got marginalized. And so even today, I have people think of me as an extension of the devil himself or some angel up on a pedestal. And I'm neither one. I'm a human being. I have sickness, problems exactly like every other person on the planet. And and I have to find healing for it in various ways, the same way everybody else does. But I do get the privilege, though, of talking to people, talking to guides and angels and people that have passed, to help people solve their riddles so they can move on and prosper in life.
Well, what about those when you go to some like Sedona, or you go to some shop in Palm Springs or something, and they've got a psychic in there who charges you $50 to come in and do a 15-minute reading? What about some of those people all over the world that are probably given bad names to people like you? Tell me about the traditional psychic that you see out on the street, or even some of these on TV.
Right. Well, to me, it's all good. Because they're showing that there is information available that's beyond the end of our nose. Mm-hmm. That's not in a book per se. So to me, as long as they're not ripping off the world, I think it's fine. You know, I have one lady that's coming in, and she was going to this local psychic somewhere, and been going to her for 10 years, and she's paid her well over $1 million, and buying all these crystals that are going to do this, that, and the other, charging $8,500 for a crystal that's 6 inches across because it's a blessed crystal, and things like that. And I just sit there and I go, well, that's human. The one who dies with the most apparently wins. I don't know. I don't feel that way, but it's apparently the goal anyway. You know, as I say that sarcastically, but this gives people like me a bad name.
Yeah.
As far as her ability to be psychic, it's that part's fine, because it's saying there's something beyond the cultures that we've accepted for some reason. Something beyond that we can all count on. The major blow to it in our specific culture in the United States came in, I think it was 1938, with the development of the American Medical Association. When that was developed, it took control of the health of every American in the United States or in the territories. And anything that didn't fit the model was removed. So you had one of the main reasons it was formed was because of a man named Edgar Cayce. And most people have heard of Edgar Cayce. He was a psychic healer that lived from the 1800s into around 1950 something. You can look that all up online. That's not important. But he could take a person's name written on a piece of paper, put it in his hand, go into a trance or a nap, and start talking while he was asleep and tell what was wrong with the person. And he was very accurate. Mm-hmm. And all the other doctors around that were practicing the medical field then were very upset by that, because he was really good. And he formed the Edgar Cayce Hospital, and people were flocking to him that the regular doctors couldn't fix. So they, of course, that became this power and jealousy. So they created this association and made it law. And then Edgar Cayce Hospital was put out of business. And and so were the rest of the psychic healers in the United States. And even today, I have to be very cautious. Like I've told you in the beginning here, I don't diagnose. I give you what I'm told, you go out and prove it. I have to constantly give those caveats. Otherwise, I'm going to be shut down by the American Medical Association. And and it's a legal battle that takes place with everyone who calls themselves a healer within our country. So even, you know, like you said, I was reluctant, and I still am reluctant, to do the podcasts and the videos and things like that, because it sets me up to be overrun by people that are desperate and forced, because I don't have much money. I can't go into hiding. And so it would force, there's a risk I'm taking by doing this. But I also there's a lot of information here that can come out that can help people, like the energy exchange, and separating yourself from what's coming at you, bringing it into the artistic part of your brain by visualizing it, and then having your subconscious mind do the thinking process. So you then wake up with answers, or you start talking and the answers come out of your face, out of your mouth. So, you know, so I can do those things. And very amazing to watch that happen. So this other lady yesterday was extremely doubting herself in everything she did, and I told you this story yesterday real quick, but or maybe I told it earlier, but she couldn't step out of her own skin, and she started crying with the idea of even doing a video chat with you. And because she couldn't do it, because she felt she was becoming part of the cog if she did it. And it's like, we just did that and it just removed it from her. The visual for me was her child in duct tape, completely surrounded in duct tape. And she got it. I saw, when we were working with her, I saw the duct tape, the visual came to me, the duct tape was removed, and all of a sudden she smiled and she got it. And it was a beautiful thing to watch. She can now realize she can find her what do they call that? Her posse without joining the cog.
Right. Her other people that she connects with, her frequency.
Right.
Having to go and get a job at some, work in some cubicle, right?
Right. And and it just opened up her whole mind, and she came up with these titles for what she's doing. She came up with ideas on how to do it. Just all of a sudden, when this duct tape, which was a predatory energy, was removed from her, and we found out where it came from, how it was affirmed by her parents, how it was affirmed by her view of her parents, rather, and how it was affirmed by her view of all her friends and everything else, because she filled in the blanks according to the predatory energy. Just like the lion. You don't choose the lion because you filled in the blank. Lion that hasn't eaten in 3 months is going to eat me. He's going to be very hungry. Well, same thing here. If I step out, I'm going to be annihilated. So I'm not going to step out.
It's linear thinking.
Very
much. Call it 2-dimensional thinking instead of 3-dimensional, or the quantum field. It's like one thing. You do one thing. If you listen to your inner voice and you do what you feel is your soul purpose, then yeah, you might hit some bumps on the road, but that bump, you might find a mate or a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or it doesn't work out, but that leads to somebody else that's the actual right one.
Exactly.
Same thing goes with work and everywhere else in between.
So that's where that's why I agreed to come on the show with you. It's because this is how you make your life prosperous. And that's what your whole show's about.
Yeah.
And and so it works very much hand in hand. I do go through a process with people to come in to have an appointment. As you know, you came in and I had to check to see if the constructs of your energy field were able to absorb what would be revealed.
So what he means there is, and by the way, he's mentioned a podcast, ericthorton.com is his website, ERIC, Thornton at THORTON.com. And then he goes on a podcast. He's been on quite a few episodes. You can find it from his website, but it's called Learn True Health. And that's with Ashley James you mentioned, right?
That's right.
Great podcast. I recommend going and checking that on iTunes as well and searching for Eric Thornton. Basically, I remember. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and on the website, there's a thing that says Conversations with Eric Thornton. That goes to, you click on that, it goes to the podcasts. And then there's also the newsletters.
Okay.
And you have to subscribe to the newsletters. I can't subscribe you, that's not legal. And then you can get at all the newsletters. And they're all the newsletters. Pardon?
We come from the marketing world, so we're encouraging people to,
right,
join their email list, so they're used to that.
Right. So, but they're blogs. This is what people don't know. The newsletters are blogs, and you can ask me a question about them, and it'll send me an email, and I can answer back. And but each one of those newsletters is not a newsletter. Hey, how you doing? Life's lovely. Each one of the newsletters is explaining a different concept. And so are each of the each of the podcasts. They're explaining different concepts, and people love them. They just write me all the time saying, "Oh my God, this is what I've been looking for. Something that makes sense, something that we can grasp onto. That's not put in a place of a mystery." You know, I come from a construction blue collar worker background, and it's hands-on. It's let's solve a problem, not keep it mystical. And so I pride, if you had to say my ego, wants to put everything into an everyday man's voice, not a mystical voice.
That's what I've noticed the first, it was pretty cool. It's like you're probably picturing this spiritual guru monk type person, but wait till you meet him. He's just a normal guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I even have a potty mouth sometimes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm gonna throw some F-bombs out there.
Yeah. Sure. It's like, it's who I am. I don't put on airs. I'm the same way everywhere. And but it's such a privilege. I keep saying that, but it truly is, to watch people just bloom. Overnight. It would help. So like, say someone is stuck with concepts from you, and they keep trying them, but they don't feel good about it. Well, it means something in them is preventing them from hearing you. And so they come to a guy like me, and all of a sudden they can hear everything you've said.
Also, I need to get all my folks coming, listening to you, or coming.
Well, there you go.
They're going to be able to make way better everlasting ads. That's what we call.
But it's that way with everything. I say our work is, we include everything. Because if you're going to an MD that can't solve the problem, we point you in the right direction, and all of a sudden the MD can help you. Yes. Same with the massage therapist. Same with the boss at work. Same with your imagination and your own goals in life, and finding out your purposes, or going to school, choosing schools, things like that you're stuck with. We can help you get unstuck so you can make those choices.
You told me a story once about somebody who's having an issue. Like I knew somebody as well who's they were in that age range of like late 20s and having some really psychological issues, like having some spells of what's it called when you're really I forget. Damn it. What's
bipolar?
That? Yeah, like a little bit, not bipolar, but one level down, maybe a little bit like
Asperger's, or
just they're having some really issues basically. But anyways, I was talking about that, and you had mentioned, you gave an example, I think, of somebody who came in and you recommended, because they were seeing it, like if you go to your doctor or psychiatrist, recommend this many cc's or whatever. And it's like, and just ask your doctor, and they might not want to, and then they did, and then voila.
Right.
So it's not like some people might see someone like you as, oh, they're a quack, they're going to tell me not to go to the doctor anymore because I don't need doctors at all. That's what I also appreciate about you, is you're really merging this traditional world of medicine and psychology with our internal intelligence.
That's extremely important to me. It takes a village, and it really does. God, if we're using the word God is in everything. And if you decide that thing is not for you, you have just put handcuffs on how God can help you.
Yep.
If you say, well, that's maybe not right now, I don't get that, but yeah, maybe someday, then that can be a tool someday. And our brains shut things off, and so they are not available tools. But I want it proven through a psychologist, through a psychiatrist. We work with people that are bipolar, that have anxiety disorders. We work with people that have schizophrenia, cancer, on and on and on.
It was a schizophrenic episodes. That was the thing. Yeah, it was my
Yeah. And
they were having an issue. I tried to get him to come see you, and I couldn't get the family to let him.
Oh,
so yeah, I was like, I thought I was gonna make it happen, and then I was like, I'll pay for it, and then they still didn't want. Yeah. And
well,
like, now he's on drugs, and he's taking all these drugs, and he's completely sedated.
Yeah. Did he make it?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, yeah, I just said, you know what I mean? I think overly drugged, and like now you're in that point of not able to tap into anything anymore.
Right. Right.
So I would say no, but not yet.
Right. He's drugged up, but he's not prosperous. He's not doing what he's supposed to be doing in life.
He's not tapping into any of his creativity that he has. It's unbelievable. I've looked at some of his numbers
Right.
and stuff, and it's, yeah. But
Yeah.
anyway, we can talk about some of that stuff on another one. But one of the, you were talking about, I interrupted you a little bit, the process. I remember when Chris recommended me to you, he had to email you, and he CC'd me, I believe, and maybe it was Julie, and then to see if I wanted to get a session, then you'd check with the guides, right?
Right.
You were talking about that earlier. Does that process work again?
Yep. And a guide is something that is different than an angel.
Okay.
A guide is what I've been told to call an evolutionary soul. An angel is been told to call a non-evolutionary soul. So the difference is this. An angel is created, it's a being, and if you have one near you, you can actually put your hand in it and feel it, and most people can. And and it's pretty amazing, but they're a being that is created in a set of light frequencies that we can't see well. We can see them moving sometimes in the corner of our eye, but they're given a job to do. So you have guardian angels, you have sheriffins, you have angels that are what we call demons. We have, or possessions. We have angels that were called guardian angels. There's millions of different types of angels. They're given a job description. And humans, like, we take a job and we have a job description, but we push the boundaries of that job description to get a promotion. Angels don't have the need, the want, or the ability to push that job description. They call in another angel that has the job description they need.
Okay.
So we have multiple angels at any different time.
That's why you're always saying they. Anybody I've ever talked to, it's somewhat of a psychic. They're always saying they. They're telling me this. They're telling me this. It's never he or she or it.
Well, they're not mammals, so they don't have genitals, so they're not he's or she's.
True.
Okay, that's always a good one. Anyway, very human perspective. But anyway, when I wrote my book, I had an angel specifically to help me write that book.
Okay.
And it guided me all the way through it. Whenever I would sit down to write it, I would have this other angel that would show up and give me ideas to write the book. And the first book I wrote was terrible, but it was full of about 8 books of content that I got from that angel. And it got me to organize my thoughts. I'm ADD. Get the thoughts organized, guy. I needed help with that. And I wrote this manuscript in about 3 months. That was a typical psychic book that's boring as hell to read, and coming from the intuit's point of view. And so then I took that. I knew it was good information, and I started bringing that to my group circle.
Okay.
And we eventually found the everyday man's voice, and we have content for a lot of books because we had to group the information,
right,
so that people could understand it. So that's what an angel does.
So you hear a lot about, before you hit the guides, I hear a lot of really creative writers, fiction writers, nonfiction writers, screenplay writers, people that are writing songs, songwriters, how I channeled that. I channeled the lyrics to that song.
Exactly.
That's what you're talking about, right?
Exactly. It's amazing. And you get what you need. And sometimes what you need is what you want too. And that's when it really works good. And because sometimes what we think we need, or we think we want, are not necessarily what we need, and the other way around. But anyway, we get help from angels in that way. And they can connect us to all kinds of things. Guides can do the same thing. Now, a guide, to start with, is a being that has lived physical life. They have been in humans or other similar life form, and they have been through what we call an entire karmic cycle, which is not using the word like the New Age does. We use the word as in teaching and learning. So a karmic cycle is everything you can learn from a life form. So the human lives are very complicated, and they change constantly.
Talks a lot. That's what this whole book is about. But it's not
Yeah.
really a teaching book. It's just him interviewing people, remembering their past lives, and then him kind of narrating in between.
Right.
Exact. That's what brought me to you to begin with. It's that book.
Yeah.
Anyway, keep going.
Wonderful
Yeah.
book.
Yeah.
And the evolutionary souls literally start out with very little information. They're part of this thing we call God, experiencing its own creation. So we're experiencing this creation. We're experiencing how it evolves. We're experiencing the evolution of what God put forward. And each time a sperm and an egg get together from two different families, we have evolution. And we have a soul that hooks to that to make it viable. And that experience we have is according to our history. A soul that hasn't done this many times doesn't have a lot of depth of character. So they're called in the New Age, they're called newbies. It works. They are very radical. They can be smart, or they might not be real smart as far as IQ goes, but they don't have a lot of common sense. And so if you tell them that they got to make the sign of the cross 421 times a day, they're going to do it, and they're going to count, and they're going to make sure everyone else on the planet does it too, because that's the only way to get to heaven, because that's what they were first imprinted with. And you live these lives of kinetic learning. A soul can't pick up a book and read it and get the experience from it, just like humans can't.
No,
you know, a book inspires, but then you have to go out and do it kinetically in order to learn. So a soul learns through the experience of the body. And over time of living life after life after life, you get more and more wisdom that you're born with.
This is why some people think that oh, I have bad karma, you're getting punished. It's not about punishment. It's about experiencing. Maybe you were really, really bossy in a lifetime, and in the next life, you might have a dad that was very bossy. So you can experience what it feels like to get bossed around or to get slapped around, maybe, right? It's not about punishing you. It's about you learning through experience.
Exactly. And so that's why we have to look at these things as neither positive or negative. They just are.
Yes. Okay.
And as you age, as far as chronologically, the soul's getting older, but it doesn't age like the human body, but it ages with experience. So you're gaining more and more and more experience. Mm-hmm. And so then when you're born, you stop reacting to things the same way. So if you put this on a timeline, I've explained this to you before, but you put it on the timeline, say, of the human karmic cycle. On the far left, you have someone who would be a newbie. On the far right, you have the ascending master. About in the middle point, we have what's called the point of mastery. This is the point where you become an old soul. So you're approaching this point in the middle of this timeline, and you're still on this side, and so you fit the cultures of our society. You go along with them. As you approach this and you get close to it, you have second thoughts about the cultures, but you still have to do it. Then one day you're born on this side of this point of mastery. And there's a change that takes place. On this side, you have this series of angels, one of them that's with you all the time, that's often referred to in English as the guardian angel. They're with you. They're there to keep you alive. They're there to help you, but they don't have practical experience. Once you make this side, you now no longer can go along with the cultures. There's this block that says, yeah, those cultures are there. They developed. I get it, but I really can't do it. So these are the kids like in school who, they're not the mean girls or the mean boys. They're not the extreme nerds. They're the ones that are kind of in between. They kind of don't have a clique, but they kind of do, and they can fit into all of them a little bit. But they don't excel at any one of them because they can find flaws in all of the cliques of human existence. And then, did I say that right? This happens, sorry, you start to do that here, and you make that jump, and all of a sudden, you can't do that. You feel guilty for being the mean boy or mean girl. You feel guilty for taking over the Ukraine or Turkey. You feel guilty if you were to instruct and create a war. You can't do it. And so now you don't go along with the herd of humans, but the body is the same as the rest of the humans, and it wants to run with the herd. So you have what's called stress. Period. You don't fit. If your parents are younger souls, they don't understand you. Your teachers don't understand you. They may like you. Your parents may like you, but they don't understand you. Or they may try to beat you into being a younger soul again and following their rules.
Yeah.
So you become this very complicated human being because you don't fit in. I call it kind of the humans, the cattle. We're all black and white cattle. And then one day you're a pink cow. So you don't fit in with the herd. And so your perspectives are different. So you raise questions.
I think one time on my first session with you, you talked about your wires are being crossed.
Right.
From your parents' upbringing stuff. You know, it's part of it's because they were so different too, I think. But
right. They get these ideas in your brain. That's why I say it's your perspective of your parents. Their input doesn't work with yours. So it cross wires, we call it. And then that can freeze us. And that's a psychological phenomenon. And so it causes this stress in your life. And these lives right after that point of mastery are called the lives of discovery. And we are supposed to be discovering the various ways that God reveals itself to the whole planet. And that means you're a searcher. That means you're always going to be inquiring. You're always going to be searching. You're never going to be satisfied with 2.5 kids, the minivan, the dog, and the house, and the money. You're always going to be trying new things. You may have a job for a few years, but then you're going to get bored with it if it's not a job where you are constantly searching. And and these lives, you search and you grow and you get little bits of gifts. So you may be searching and it teaches you to do meditation and yoga, and your intuition comes up. Or it may teach you you've taken a class on herbology, because that's one way God reveals itself to the world. And all of a sudden, just know intuitively how this herb is going to help that person. So you get these little bits of gifts, and it's all different ones through these lives of discovery, but you haven't been able to pull them all together yet. Now, the thing that goes along with this is also causing more stress. Your perception of the world changes when you get past that point of mastery on either side.
Does this feel like it sometimes happens? Because you talked about, like, a lot of times, here's the point of mastery, and this life is getting close to it, and the next one you will be born, and then this one. Is there times where it feels like you're crossing over that in the middle of your, you know what I mean, in the middle of a life? Or is it like a couple periods of life, a few lifetimes that happens?
I've seen that happen a few times. And I've seen people make it and keep going. And I've seen people get here and go, whoops, nope, too fearful, and then go back over here.
Okay, sure.
And it's both ways. But it's usually in the life between lives.
Okay.
But what changes, and the reason why it's so hard in a current life to do the jump, your perception of the world changes. And I describe it like this. When you're on the left side of this point of mastery, the younger side, your perception of the world might be equated with a small radar dish. And that small radar dish, let's say it's a direct TV satellite dish. It's maybe 18 inches across, and it picks up the direct TV satellite, and that's it. You make this jump, and all of a sudden, you got the radar dishes that are on the Waiakea, a mountain, a volcano in Hawaii, that can read tiny little radio waves put out 1 million years ago or 1 trillion years ago out in deep space. Then you got these people with these normal radar dishes, and then you got these old souls with all these huge radar dishes. And the medicine men and women used to teach people how to use those. The energy exchange is a big deal with that. Because now you are absorbing all kinds of information without being gifted. You're just starting to explore the gift.
Okay.
And that information, I often use these 2 ideas or 2 stories to describe different kinds of information that we can get that we don't realize is happening. I had a psychologist come in for an appointment, and they brought me a pendant. I didn't know it, but they brought me a pendant. And they were lying here, and she goes, "Can you read this?" And it was a precious stone pendant. And I said, "Sure." So she put it in my hand, and I just kind of stepped back, and I went, "Whoa." And she says, "What?" And I said, "Where did you get this?" And she said, "Why?" And I said, "Where did you get this?" And she said, "Why?" Again, typical psychologist, right? And I go, "Because this has been involved in a jewelry heist." And she looked at me, and she goes, "Well, I was testing you." Typical psychologist. And I said, "Where did you get this?" And she goes, "My sister's a jewelry wholesaler, and she buys recovered pieces from robberies that have already been paid out by insurance companies, and they tell the police department to sell them to give the money to charity." Wow. And this was in a smash and grab jewelry heist. It was fine jewelry. And it was actually right. And it's there. It's in everything we do. It's like I can look at you right now and go, "Your shirt was made by this person, and I can tell if they were fairly paid. I can tell where it was made in the world. I can literally, you can pick up any object. It's the information is there. That's the matrix." And
some people, yeah, keep going.
Yeah, so people can tap into this when you get the ability to do it. But people in the lives of discovery, their radar dish is big enough, and they're getting the information, but they can't put it together yet.
Okay.
So that consequently they get overwhelmed when they walk into a place like a supermarket or a mall, because you got a whole lot of little Oreo cookies and Nabiscos and Gap and Abercrombie and Finch. They all want to sell you products so that they can keep their employees alive and keep their business running. And all that information is there, and it becomes overwhelming. And if you'd been raised by a medicine man or woman, you would have been taught when you were 5 years old the energy exchange. And none of that would bother you. You'd leave the mall and you'd give the energy back. You'd leave the store and you'd give the energy back. You'd pick up a pen.
I am on
right.
That phase a little bit after that jump,
right.
But it's all still right.
It's all there. So you pick up a pen and you put the energy back. You don't need the pen to remember the pen. It's still there. It's still here, except now it's clear. It also works with people. So like this house that I'm living in currently, I always tell this story, and it was given to me by the guides to tell the story, is no one had ever cleared this house properly from anyone that ever worked in it or ever lived in it. So the first time I come in, I see all the people that have ever been in this house and what they did. So I didn't own the house yet, so I couldn't clear it. Once we bought the house, I cleared the house, and I saw the builders of the house. I saw the builders of the additions. I saw the people, all the families that lived in it, etc. And this one guy stuck out, and he had an emotional attachment to the house, and he was a bit unusual looking in that he was very, very tall, and he had long brown hair down to his butt. And I thought, wow, why the emotional attachment to the house? And I thought, oh, I don't care. So I just cleared it out. So 8 years after that, we had a pipe break in a wall. And the strangely enough, I knew it was going to happen, but I didn't want to fix it. And the and it finally broke. And so it flooded in the wall and through the cabinets downstairs, and the whole kitchen had to be replaced, and the walls, the drywall, the insulation, everything. So it was a mess. It was a huge mess. And so we hired, the insurance company hired a company to fix it because I wasn't doing that work anymore. And it goes ready for the drywall work to be done. And so the contractor hired this guy to come in on a Saturday, because it was a small job, to do the drywall work. And I was downstairs cleaning up. He was on time. He rang the doorbell. My daughter answered the door. I stuck my head up the stairwell, and I looked at the guy and I said, "Welcome back." And he looked at me like, "What?" And I looked at my daughter, looked at me like, and she literally said, "Dad." And I looked at him again. I said, "Welcome back." And he looked at me and he started looking around the house. And he goes, "Was this house built in 1977? And I go, "Yeah, the original part." And he goes, "Oh my God, this is the first house I ever drywalled and finished by myself completely." The emotional attachment that I saw. And I said, "Welcome back." And he said, "Thanks." And I said, "So do you feel like fixing any of the drywall?" Because you could tell it was done by someone who wasn't real experienced at the time. And he looked around and he goes, "Well, no, but I'll do a real good job for you downstairs." And I said, "Good."
Oh my gosh.
But we literally, that energy's everywhere. I can look at your home and look at all, see all the people that have been in your home. I can be given the name of a school, and if I sit and meditate long enough, and a date on the school, and I can tell you the name of every kid in that school and something about their life, because it's the chi, it's still there, whether the school's been torn down or not. And the and we leave this everywhere in our country.
That's why I've heard a lot. I've had a lot people recommend, like, if you've had a bad relationship or something like that, and you're going in your closet and get rid of clothes from like those times, because you put it on, the energy is still there.
Exactly. It can be cleared though, but your thought is still, well, I bought that with so-and-so. Mm-hmm. So like, I love this one. People say they're going to get a divorce, but they want to keep the house. And I go, really? So you want to walk into that house every day and think of all the bad memories you have in that, when you could buy a house just like this down the street in another town, and even better. So if you do win the house, sell it and buy yourself something that doesn't bring you bad memories all the time.
Yeah.
And they go, "Oh, wow, I never thought of that." And so it's we have to work with the human brain. We have to work with what's given off, and we have to understand that everything really is energy. And in my house, I didn't want all those people's energy floating through the house all the time, because I wanted the house clear for my family to have their experiences in, not being influenced by other people. So we cleared it. And yeah. And so we're free to have our own experience. And the so what the teaching is to teach people to look at things energetically instead of personally or through the cultures that we have been taught. If we can look at things energetically, which is what everything is, we can look at it from a place of innocence. And then it doesn't trip the victim. It doesn't trip the our own negative thought, the interject, the inner critic. It doesn't deactivate us if we go back to the clarity, the innocence. And the energy exchange, that we call that the everyday level, we do it with everybody. You know, I told you to do it with me. You know,
Yeah.
when we're done today, give me my energy back. I give you your energy back. It's your chi. It's what makes you healthy, and and you need it. And so I tell every client, do the same thing. And the energy that we don't dispose of, well, go back to them. I don't want to see their energy in my house. It's my house. And I only want to see them in my house when I'm working with them. And and then they're not being interrupted by all the other clients' energy either. So we have to constantly do the energy exchange in everything we do. We need to constantly give people the energy back, let them own their energy. If you have someone that's really hormonal or really in your face, you get to let them own it. You get to say things like, you know, you put your hand out and you go, that is an amazing thought. Or, did you think of that all by yourself? Or, that really works for you, doesn't it? You know, those little lines are actually, you're giving them back their energy.
Interesting.
If you sit there and you go, you know, I, pointing to your heart chakra, don't agree with you, you have just taken in all of their crap and lodged it in your heart chakra, which then makes you anxious and eventually builds up and gives you panic attacks because you're so busy pulling it in. So we need to learn to go, which again, if old souls are raised by medicine men and women, authentic ones, they're going to be learning at a very young age. When mom's in a bad mood, it's got nothing to do with them. When dad's in a bad mood, it's got nothing to do with them. When dad or mom is giving you advice and it's not coming through the most lovely form of language, you can then go, well, that's stupid human tricks, stupid hormones, but what are they really trying to say? They're trying to say, I love you, I care about you, this is what I know to be best, so I'd like you to try it. But their delivery system, it might be, you stupid ass kid, I've told you that 5 million times, and you're still doing it wrong. That's their 1 and 2 dimensional human hormonal thinking.
Right.
When they're actually saying, I love you, this is what I know, this is what worked for me. Try it out, and it might give you inspiration. And that's really what they're saying. And so by giving them the energy back, the child can then go, oh, so what's mom really saying? Or what's dad really saying? And find the wisdom in it and the love in it instead of the pain. And it de-escalates everything. And then you can find and see the wisdom of your parents' hormones, because we all have those. And so then it often we look into the child's life, their perspective, so it can diffuse these type of interactions, so that their current personality can understand that was love in the way that they could speak it. And that's their experience. Maybe they were put down, maligned, and beaten too. And so that's what they know to be the best parent they can be. But it's just the delivery system. So by doing the energy exchange, we can give it back to them and own, and then find the wisdom. And and that unlocks the adult.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the first steps in unlocking the adult. If someone had a childhood that was not in alignment with their personality. So like, I had two older gentlemen come in, and they were, one was 70 and one was 68. The 70-year-old is the one I saw first. He'd been dry alcoholic for 40 years. And the first thing I saw was just how brutal his parents were to him. They even took a bat after him and beat him with it.
Wow.
I was astonished that the police weren't even called 70 years earlier when this was occurring, because it was that bad.
Wow.
And, you know, that would be 80 years ago now, but even then there was limits. And the brother came in 2 years later, same parents. His parents were quite nice.
Wow.
Different age of soul. He went along with his parents and the culture personality. The older soul guy, the older brother, couldn't do that. He was in the lives of discovery. His parents didn't understand him. So they brutalized him for the time he was young. So what did he do? He started self-medicating. And then he one day figured out, this isn't good. His old soul finally came through and went, you're not going to get anywhere if you keep doing this. He finally heard his guidance and his old soul. He went to AA, which got him clean and sober. And then we were able to actually heal him.
Mm.
The AA is a step of survival, which is a great step, but it's not healed. And and we were able to actually heal him. And then all of a sudden his children started liking him. His friend, he got tons more friends. He got more work. He was a drywaller himself, as a matter of fact. And he got more work because people started liking him more because he wasn't so angry, because now he understood. So in all walks of life, we can help people understand who they are, their soul's personality, separate it from their parents' personalities. If you're not a younger soul like they might have been, separate it out and go, hey, this is where you're coming from. And all of a sudden they go, oh my God, you're right. It's like you're speaking to me. It's like everything you said. One lady said, everything I've heard on the podcast, it's like every word you say, you're speaking to me. And I've never heard that before. It's because she was raised by younger souls. So anyway, so we get to help with this process. And again, it's an honor and a privilege to do it with every single person. So anyway.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So from there, I think you're just, the evolution continues all the way up to an ascending master, right? That's how.
Right.
And then at that point, you're not living in any human form lifestorms anymore, right? Because you've kind of made it all the way through that karmic cycle.
Well, at the end of the lives of discovery, you're born with the gifts on.
Okay. Like you.
Period. You no longer have choice with that. And so you're literally have full sight, full hearing, full knowledge, faith in the other three things, and the gift of command, which means when a master starts working on somebody, their angels and guides are going to show up. So what I look for, which got us on this discussion, is I look for the guide when someone calls in. I look for a little story from a guide. And that tells me they're in the lives of discovery or they're a master. And they can hear and get information from what we're doing.
Okay.
As a master, there's many, many lifetimes as a master where you are learning the innocence of being a master, of being an ascending master. Sometimes there's lives as a sorcerer where you're using your gifts, the same gifts that I have, to control people, to get specific end results. And that's ego. And that's why it's called sorcery. When we go through enough of those lives, you realize ego doesn't belong in this. And then you're closer to becoming the ascending master. And you will not create karma. A sorcerer will create karma because they're using their ego to make judgment.
Right.
When you are beyond that level in mastery, you will not create karma, period, even if it means your child's death. Literally. Been close there. And and it hurts. But you know absolutely that this is a blip of time. And ultimately, if you act to save somebody, you have acted as God. You have decided that that circumstance is not one that that person needs. And so you interfere. And it's amazing how you can interfere.
So you're talking about interfering with somebody like that you want to save and not letting them come to their own conclusion, not letting
Correct.
them, you're not guide, instead of guiding them, you're giving them the answer. Is that what you're saying here, basically?
Yes.
Okay.
And it can be all the way to the point of changing their brain.
Wow.
You can actually get in there and change the neural pathways in a person's brain. But then there's no wisdom.
Yes.
The wisdom comes through the doing, through the experiential. So then you got a person that you've literally changed their brain. You've decided egoically that you're going to change their brain and their life. And a master has the ability to do that. But someone that's past sorcery will never, ever, ever do that. Because they know they're taking away the purpose of that person's life, which is to struggle and gain the wisdom.
Right.
We can help them get unstuck. We can help them move on. We could help them in many ways, but we always present it and we never tell them what to do. And you, as you can imagine, there's a lot of people that call up that want me to tell them how to run their life.
Right.
And I won't do that. And and then you live these lives as a healer till one day you pull it all together, and that's a long story, but that's called the ascending master. The ascending master, an authentic ascending master, not one that just labels himself that, his or herself that, is actually someone who is good at everything. And they're the most humble people you'll ever meet. They can public speak, they can do all the mathematics, they can understand science, they understand the human brain, they understand everything about the body, and they're just born with it. I'm not there yet. I'm past sorcery, but I'm not the ascending master. And there's very few that are actually physically alive at any one given time. And because they're very oddball, very odd, because they just don't fit in at all. Mm-hmm. When they decide to leave or ascend, they decide it. That's why they're given the name ascending master. And they decide, well, this is a good day to die, or this is the day I'm supposed to die. And they literally drop dead that day.
Drop dead. I've
yep.
Heard, yeah.
And those you have a choice at that point as an ascending master to become a guide. That's what a guide is. Or move on to another life form with the universal wisdom you already have, but you get to experience it through a different life form. And that's why guides have a sense of humor. That is kind of a Robin Williams sense of humor because they've been there, they've done that, and it's frankly really funny if you can laugh at yourself a little bit. Yeah. One day I was walking down the street and I was walking down the street and I was doing a male thing. I was admiring a female form.
Yeah.
And I hear my guides go, $10, he's gonna hit it. And I go, what? And I turned and I hit the telephone pole. And they're just cracking up. And I go, what can I say? I'm in a male body. Where an angel Yeah, an angel would laugh at that, but they're not going to go, bet you $10 he's going to hit it, because they haven't had the human experience of dollars.
Of ego and right.
Right. And the
Desire
so
and all that stuff. Yeah.
so guides have these very human explanations, experiences to relate to, where angels are, they don't have that. They have amazing wisdom, amazing senses of humor. They have, there's music, the Hathos are music, uh, uh, angels of music and tone. There's all kinds. It's phenomenal. And but they don't got that Robin Williams sense of humor. And so that's what I look for, that both are there.
Okay.
And that tells me you're an old soul, and we might be able to reach you and get you to go, oh, do you mean I don't have to own everything, and I'm okay? It's okay that I fail, and it's okay that I succeed. And with just normal anxieties, normal fears, instead of these over the top ones. And so that's how we go through this process with everybody that wants to come in. And very few, because people that call me generally are an old soul, because the younger soul is going to look at this whole thing and go, yeah, right.
Right.
Or right. But once in a while we get wives or husbands or significant others going, you got to go see this guy. You really do. And they bug them for 10 years, and they finally call and make an appointment. And I can see their younger soul, and I have to either let them come in and explain it to them, or say no at that moment. So like I had this one lady that came in for years, and her husband was military man, young soul, and he wanted to come in. So she told him all kinds of stories. And so he comes in, and he's thinking he's going to get a massage from me. And he starts to undress to get on the massage table. And I go, no, dude, no. No. Can you sit down here? We need to have a talk. And he was a major in the services. So he was the boss at home, right? So we sat and talked. And one of the points that came out was how wonderful his wife was. And even though this might have been a little bit of an embarrassing moment for him, it was because she wanted the best for him that she could possibly find, and that she loved him immensely and wanted him to have this experience that she had. But he didn't have the ability to do it. And so he goes, you're right. He goes, I might come in a few years, but I doubt it. But I want to leave the door open for that. And I said, great. And I said, I want you to go home. And again, I said this earlier, I want you to put both hands around your wife and give her a hug and say thank you, instead of going home and going, what the hell was that all about? Why did you do that? I wanted him to thank her because she loved him so much. And so
you think he did?
He actually did.
Oh,
because I've talked to her since.
Oh, good.
And there was a little of both, but ultimately he did say thank you.
He understood it was from a good place. Yeah.
Right. So you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. So, and I have all kinds of people wanting me to push a button and make life better for them. That's not how this works. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes miracles, what would be called a miracle, happens. But I'm not in charge of that. I'm in charge of delivering the information I'm given. And and it gets to help people come into who they are. And that's an honor and a privilege in my book.
Yeah, I would wish everybody I know I would want to come, go see you. That's just like, that's how I am, so I'm like, God, if you just be open-minded a little bit, like it's like, you have to have the experience though. Like Dr. Eben Alexander, he's a neurosurgeon, and he was an atheist, didn't
Uh-huh.
believe in any afterlife or any God or anything, and then he had a near-death experience
Right.
and experienced it all. So now he writes about it and speaks about it, and people connect to him because he can see he came from a different perspective. But
Right.
it's like you said, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force him to
Right.
drink.
Some
So
some old souls have been, it's been so hard to be human because of our cultures that they get what might be called massive contempt, and they need a wake-up call. And that's what I call those experiences. Wake-up calls. Making you realize you are actually an old soul, but you've had so much contempt for humanity, you're not going to do it. And so then we have this drama that takes place, and Christopher Reeve was one of those.
oh,
You know, he was an actor, played Superman, good looking, about as deep as a mud puddle. He had the accident on the horse. He became this voice for goodness. It changed who he was completely inside, even though he was a quadriplegic. And and it brought him to his old soul. And he helped a lot of people from that place. So I don't know if I mean, I watched some interviews, and he realized, he did express how it changed his life and made him into a better man. And I call it, he was stuck being an old soul and he had a wake-up call. And so in the next life, he's going to be born the old soul.
right.
And it'll be there. And he won't be afraid of it anymore. So the experience was bad for the body, but it was amazing for his soul. And again, that's how we look at everything here. It's how wonderful it actually is.
Right.
So I look at every experience I have, and near death or not near death experiences that I have, and I always look at it. So literally right in the middle of it, I'll be going, I wonder what I'm going to learn from this. This is a big one, so I must be going to learn a lot. and it's like, and I just kind of giggle. It's like, I had the massive heart attack 8 years ago, and and I just sat there in the bed, and they said I was going to die, and I thought, well, okay, cool. And I figured if I got stressed out, I was definitely going to die. So I just looked at it for its learning value, and it was amazing. It was I got to enjoy the time in the hospital. I got to accept healing. Julie, my assistant, arranged for 3 days after I got home for everyone to give me a prayer minute at 6 p.m. And the next day, prior to that, I couldn't walk the stairs. The next day, I walked 3 miles. Literally, mile and a half one way and a mile and a half the other. and my heart shows never having had a heart attack because I accepted the healing. So it's we can stress ourselves out, or we can not stress ourselves out. And I'll tell you what, I learned more about heart disease, more about the human body. I learned so much. I embraced every minute of it and learned. I took the classes. I literally took the classes. I took all the physical therapy. I complimented all the nurses and all the doctors, and they just taught me more. And it was an amazing experience. There was nothing negative about it. And that's enlightenment.
Exactly. Your whole perspective shifts when you realize you get to look back and not have a victim and realize, oh, why did that happen? I used to think, why did this happen or this happen, and be unlucky. And it's like, wait a second. That led to this. That led to this.
Right.
That led to me becoming, having perspective or learning this or meeting this person. And it's
exactly
the whole purpose.
right.
This.
If you take it as victim, you've closed the books. You're not going to learn from it. And so if you take it as, well, this is what the human body's going through at this moment, this will be interesting.
Let's go along for the ride.
Go along for the ride and just see what's there. And sometimes you scratch your head for a while, and then all of a sudden, ding, there it goes. You learned. And and you're not a victim, you know? And every time that I've had these experiences, and I've had a number of them, it's just learning and growing once you get through it, and you just stay neutral as possible throughout it. And we're not denying our emotions. We're taking them out and we're looking at them going, this is an amazing thing I'm going through right now. I've never felt this before. Wow, let's explore this feeling. And then you don't become a victim to it. So again, that's the enlightenment process. And when you can really do that, you hear the souls, you feel your soul's personality coming in, and not the child, not the victim of the world. So you'll find most old souls are moderates in everything, because they see both sides.
Yep.
And the younger souls are extremists. The older souls are the ones that go, dude, on the left, dude, on the right. Come on. The system was set up for you to talk and come up with something in the middle. That where most Americans are at, or most citizens of the world are at.
Yeah,
and they
just don't understand.
Yeah,
like, this cognitive
right.
dissonance, like doing whatever you can do to prove your belief system or your idea that your group that you're a part of. It's just crazy.
It's crazy. I'd love to work with people privately that nobody would know, that are the movers and shakers on the planet. I do work with some of them, and it's like, but it'd be really cool to work with some of these people that have an audience. It's like, it's fun to work with you and Ashley because they have an audience. But if you could work with someone like, I hate to say this, but even Donald Trump, it could change the entire
planet
perspective, the entire planet.
Yeah. But
there's no way in heck that young of a soul is going to come out to see a guy like me.
Right. There's no way.
They can't do it. And it would be interesting though. I'd love to work with some of the other famous people that are influencers like this, like Oprah or something like that. And because it would just, no one would ever know, of course, but it would be like, it would just open up their life even more, and they'd reach even more people.
Puts more light out to the world.
Okay, not me reaching them, but their gift reaching the world even more. My job is to bring out other people's gifts, not teach them my gift, because they can't have it. It can't be taught. But my job is to help you understand your gifts and not feel a victim to the world. And it makes it so when you do this, it makes it so your audience just massively changes and grows. So I've worked with a number of people like this, and it has helped it a lot. And and it's kind of fun to do it, I'll tell you. It's really fun to watch someone that can really influence the world really change and grow.
I bet.
It's one of those reasons every person I work with and see them grow is one of the reasons I do this. It's because if you say an egoic reason that Eric keeps on putting this out into the world, that he's some strange medicine man somehow, and all the hearsay and everything that goes along with that, but those successes are what give me the reason to keep doing it. Mm-hmm. And about I would say 98% of the people that come through here changes their lives so dramatically that they can reach more people with their gifts.
Oh, really bad. And I've got a lot of, gosh, I want a lot of my friends to see this because I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have, when we can do that, that will change the world.
Right.
They'll look at the cultures that are here. We're being forced to look at cultures that are here because of COVID-19. And but this will take it, it can take it even farther and massively farther. And people can come out to this place where we are all truly God's children. And we're all truly equal. And we can have a disagreement, because a disagreement is an opportunity for discovery. It's not a war. It's an opportunity to grow. But our cultures say it's a war.
And we're in such a polarized period of time right now. We will,
yeah.
For the next 5 or 10 years, it's going to continue to be this way. It's going to,
right.
So more important and necessary for the people with perspective to you know, I think help light up and help bring people together instead of all this battling and division and fighting and my way or your way. Why can't it be figure out a way? Jesus.
Right. Why can't we, you know, it's like a marriage. You're supposed to have two people come together, create a third thing that neither one of them would have done without the other. Well, that's the way politics is supposed to be too. And that's the way borders are supposed to be too. They're supposed to be places of which we bring different cultures together to find new ways of being.
Yeah.
Until those borders are gone. And and we can agree to disagree. It's okay, because then you're going to go home and think of new things.
Yeah.
And that's why I find this to be such an honor and privilege, and I'm humbled. And
so how do people, what's the best way for someone to reach out to you if they want to do?
Well, the website, eric@ericthornton.com.
Okay.
My email, eric@ericthornton. No, excuse me, my website, ericthornton.com. My email, eric@ericthornton.com. And, or the 800 number, which is 888-838-5341. And that's an answering service.
Okay. That reminds me, earlier when we were talking, when you said something, I was like, man, I wonder if would you ever be down to do something like this live where people could come on and ask questions and stuff?
Yeah, I can do that.
Like a Facebook Live or something like that, or like a webinar type of thing, just where we're talking and then people can kind of answer questions. That'd be fun, I think.
It would be fun, but I will have boundaries.
They might think they can't ask you like, hey, can you look at my, like, you wouldn't be doing readings and stuff, right? It would be more like,
correct.
Yeah.
I would be giving them maybe a different way of looking at something. That type of a thing. I'm not looking for someone to call in for me to push a button and make their life better.
Exactly.
I'm looking for someone who's interested in growth and wisdom. And that, to me, that would be fun, as long as we had someone screening the calls for the ones that are going, I need you to push my button and make my baby better. Well, maybe we can, maybe we can't, but that you'd have to call, and we have to go through the screening process, you know. Sure. And you know, some people have, you know, I film, if someone's here, I film, and I film it for safety purposes. Right. Yeah, because people can accuse you of anything. And they sign a waiver saying I can film it. And they're not for public viewing, and they're destroyed after a period of time. And but you know, it works just as well by phone as it does by Skype or by WhatsApp or by Zoom or by anything. It's the same. Angels are everywhere. Yeah. They don't have to be here in my home for them to do their work. But they're not going to take away your free will. They're not going to push a button and make you better unless it's part of your growth process.
Okay.
An example of that, and I think I may have told you this before, but example of that was this man that came in, and I started working on him. I didn't know anything about him. And I go, dude, you got a brain tumor. And he goes, yeah, that's why I'm here. And I said, okay. I said, the guides they literally showed it melting away into liquid. So I told him, I got my hand here. They're showing this tumor of yours. I said, it's on your pituitary gland. And he goes, wow. That's exactly right. And I said, it's going to turn to liquid mush. And he goes, okay. And then we went on with the whole rest of the session and found out his father had some constructs that were rather severe. He had murdered some people, and he had the predatory energy from that. And that's what gave him the cancer. And he was starting to show these psychopathic tendencies. And his wife had become afraid of him, and his children had become afraid of him. And he'd gotten this tumor. And so it was a bittersweet thing for the family because he was turning into a psychopath. So we got rid of both the energies. That was December 29th. On December 31st at 11:45 p.m., 15 minutes to midnight, he started having seizures. So his wife was an MD, still is an MD. So they rushed him to the hospital because they knew he had this brain tumor, and they threw him in the CT scan, and the tumor had turned to liquid mush and was rotting, and it was causing the seizures. So they put a tube in through his eye and sucked it all out. The seizures all stopped. The tumor went away, and he's been fine. And now his family loves him. And it changed the whole family life. That's what the healing was for, was to change the whole family's life. It wasn't to heal him. It was to heal the whole family. And he's been fine ever since.
Gotcha. So and it's not like somebody comes in if they just got diagnosed with something. They don't expect to come to you and you're going to heal them. That's not how it works.
Right. I have one lady that came in. She was big mucky muck back in New York. And I go, so you got 4-stage breast cancer? And she goes, no, I don't. I go, yeah, I'm sorry, you do. And she goes, no, I don't. And I said, yeah, you do. She said, you're scaring me. And I said, good, because that's going to make you go to the doctor. And I said, by the way, you have a severe case of Lyme disease. And she goes, no, I don't. I go, yeah, you do. And I said, I'm not your healer. I'm your revealer. And she said, what? And I said, you're going to go home now. You're going to prove all this out. And I said, you're going to end up in Europe getting treatment. And she's going, yeah, right, sure. So after all, she goes home. She proves out she's got 4-stage breast cancer, major Lyme disease. So she ends up very intelligent, lovely, amazing woman. And she does all this research. Her whole job is about this high intelligent job. She goes and she finds this place in France where they treat Lyme disease and get rid of it. And then the breast cancer went away.
Wow.
Without any treatment. We don't do that in the United States.
No,
Lyme disease is a huge moneymaker. And it's so easy to solve. It's so easy to solve. And yet they make it into this huge moneymaker. And she got to experience science, getting rid of Lyme disease in France. And then her breast cancer that often happens when you get Lyme disease went away. So, it's all kinds. I wasn't her healer, where the other guy I was.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's different in that way. And I have to be brutally honest with people because sometimes the guys have me say things like that to people that I have no way of proving without science backing it up.
Right.
And so we told her, go get this proven. And she did. She lived for 7 more years, and with no therapies or anything else, and then died from another complication. She was older, but amazing woman, amazing lady. And and of course she told a lot of people about the work here. And so I got to meet a lot of her friends, which were also amazing people, and it's helped all them out too. So anyway, you know, I would take phone calls from a call as long as we could get the right screening done.
Yeah, and if we did something like that, we talk about that later, but you know, we could have like a Zoom like this, and people can ask questions to the chat, so we can kind of look through them and see, you know, answer a question or bring somebody on if we want to answer it, so we can literally. Yeah,
oh yeah.
Yeah, and so we want to bring them on, then just bring them onto the thing, and that's how we do our webinars anyway. So
right,
our weekly calls with my. But that would be something I just thought about all around. It'd be fun to. I think it'd be cool way to help people get some answers in general and perspective
right
in general, and then
right
open up to, okay.
So I'm up for that at some point.
Cool. Well, we better wrap this up. We're long into this sucker, so we'll.
Yeah, it's 4:30 already.
Yeah, that was awesome though.
Yeah.
Like I said, if go to Eric's website, you know, he's busy. He's not just it's going to be a few weeks out as it is. You're going to try to get or a couple months out. So we're talking, these are serious sessions that he does. You know, I think you only schedule 2 per day on the days that you schedule.
Right.
It is.
That's right.
So go check it out. Wherever you're watching this, we'll make sure to put a link in the description, where you can go to, you know, ericthornton.com, and we'll be doing more of these. So, you know, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you check out some of the other videos we got. So
great.
Other than that, Eric, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Stuff. Until the next one.